Thinking ties. Emails right here.
All right, Brent, can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jeff, can you hear us?
I can hear
Yes.
you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Jeff, Mike, can you hear us?
Who's down on
He's presenting. So present later. All right, we're good, whenever you're ready.
I'm just trying to pull up my agenda so that I can.
It'll be an open meeting.
It's like
Okay,
a musical meeting.
well, it's too noisy. We need to close it.
Yeah, we posted an open meeting, so.
Nobody wants to walk through the door. That music might be a problem. Thanks. Okay, welcome. I'm Kathleen Alder, Mayor of Providence. We're convening our meeting in St. George because we have meetings that start early in the morning tomorrow. So we're on YouTube as well as we have some people joining us on Zoom. We're at the Hyatt Place Hotel Boardroom in St. George. And we'll go ahead and start the meeting. The roll call, we've got Janelle Seeley, Carrie Kirk, David Coons, we've got Brent Smith on the online,
And
Jeff Nevercur online as well. So we have a full quorum. I will do the Pledge of Allegiance. You'll say a prayer, and Carrie will say a prayer. So if you'd all please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which
It stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Carrie will give us an opening prayer.
Our eternal Father in heaven, we bow our heads and we express gratitude for the opportunity that we have to serve the citizens of Providence. We're grateful for health and strength that allows us to be of service and to be at this meeting. We pray that we can have peace in our hearts and that we can make decisions that would be in the best interest of the citizens of Providence, that we can have uplifting and useful conversation. And this prayer we offer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Let's do the council reports. Janelle, you want to start?
Sure. I had a library board meeting last week. And everybody kind of broke up and took assignments. The board is, leaning toward exploring a countywide library system, and Mendon City has reached out to kind of figure out how we have our relationship with the county, with our kind of we call it interlocal, interoperative agreement. What would you call our library agreement? And so I have plans to reach out to Mendon next week at their library meeting to see if I can answer any questions that they have. And start that going, but a lot of the other board members are contacting other cities, and we'll see if we'll get interest and traction on making a countywide library system. And healthy cities, we've been working on that. We have 2 weeks left for our survey that we've been doing through the Utah Wellbeing study with Portland Flint of the Utah State. So anybody who hasn't filled out the survey, we would really like to get several more respondents. And so males, females, old, young.
Where can we find the survey?
There is, it was in the newsletter, there's a QR code, a URL Is that on the website, I think, so.
I think it's been on the website, it's been on the, social media.
It's been on our social media account and there's sandwich boards out in the parks, so maybe we can send out another link to it. And remind people that they have
Closing deadline.
deadline. Fill this out and hopefully we'll get some useful information back.
Great, thank you. Carrie?
Yeah, just the youth council applications are open until the end of May, but the sooner you fill that out, the greater, the better. So it's a super fun opportunity for the youth in Providence to participate and build their resumes. The youth council is planning a dance for June 7th. And I don't know if we need to approach the council or city staff about the possibility of keeping Von Bear Park open till 10:30 that night. For that youth council dance, or we might need to find an alternate location, but that's in the works. June 7th, it's a Friday, and I've actually had a couple of young women stake presidents approach and ask about stakes joining in that youth dance effort, so might be a bigger than normal.
A bigger deal.
City
Yeah.
youth dance.
Fun kickoff this summer.
A super fun kickoff.
Okay, Jeff?
Can
have
you
a
hear me?
report?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't hear you. I'll,
Jeff, we can hear you.
okay. So I check my email every, 1 or 2 days, and the one time I wait 3 days to check it is when they plan the meeting that we're supposed to have with Millville. So I kind of missed out on that. So hopefully we'll get updated on that. But I guess the others attended and they can let us know what happened. I talked to Ryan. He'll send me a text if I go 3 days without checking my email though. So thanks, Ryan. And I hope the weather's great down there. It's still a little cool up here, but the sun came out. I don't have much to report, so that's it.
Okay. Brent?
Brent, can you hear us?
You'll need to unmute Brent. He may not be there. He's not showing the screen.
It shows his name, but.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Well, okay, so what I have done since the last meeting, I went online and participated in the League of Cities and Town Transit meeting. And what they talked about it was all pretty much Wasatch Front. There wasn't anything really that I noted that affected Cache Valley. I also went on into to the League of City and Town's affordable housing meeting and listened to their comments and what they were doing there. I didn't take away an awful lot from that meeting that is any different than what we're hearing all the time about affordable housing and what's to be done about it. I also went in on the Cache County Emergency Preparedness meeting, and I might mention that tonight there's a whole community preparedness coalition meeting that's a roundtable at 6:30 tonight. But I tried to use my iPad to get on that, have it going simultaneously, but they've sent me a bad address. So, but I do have their agenda. And so let me touch on a couple of things. The Valley Earthquake Communications Exercise. Well, first off, tomorrow at 10:15, not 10:30, as I previously announced, there will be the Utah Shakeout. And it will be a good time for families to practice what they will do with their children, such as lay down the side of a couch or a bed. So if something falls, there's a triangular space underneath where you'll be protected. Stand in a door frame. It'd be a good time to review their own personal emergency preparedness within their home. For communities, it would be a good time for anybody who's been involved in CERT to kind of understand what they would be doing had this been a full-fledged earthquake. And they do train of how to come together and how to go out and put red and green tags in homes and take a look at that. For cities, it's a good time to review the city's emergency preparedness plan, which we have, and check make assignments to individuals who are in the public works and other areas where some check reservoirs, some check other things, our sewer system, and other assignments that Rob feels is important that if there were an actual earthquake that they would check on. Now, most everybody is going to want to check on their family first. Then they can come and help the city. So keep that in mind. Families, people want to know their situation with their families. And then they can come back and work back in and help the community. Also, there's a ham operators earthquake scenario meeting tomorrow night from 5:30 to 8 p.m. Okay, so that's what I have on that. The family resource fair will be at the event center at Fairgrounds April 19th, pretty much all day. There will be one-day ham operator license course April 20th for at the sheriff's office 8 to 4 p.m. And then there is going to be a summer CERT, which is Community Emergency Response Team program. Smithfield's offering it Tuesdays and Thursday nights, June 5th through August 3rd. And the final exercise will be at the training tower, August 3rd. So if anybody missed out on some of these other training courses for CERT, they can pick one up in the summer with City of Smithfield, and we can give them more information on that. So that's about all I have, I believe. Yes, that's all I have.
Hey, thanks, Brent, for your efforts in this emergency preparedness. It's important to know if you've got kids scattered all over the valley, or just even like me, my kids aren't there, but my husband and I need to figure out that we're not crossing, going separate ways, that we need to coordinate where we're gonna be. So thank you for your efforts there.
You bet.
David?
Yeah. So attended a mosquito abatement meeting, and they've got a new fogger that should have arrived by now. They're excited about. I guess I should be too, because now I'm aware of that. I'm excited.
You're on that board, yeah.
New fogger, new spray product that we're gonna be testing out.
Oh, good.
So hopefully, because I think of all creations, the mosquito feels like the worst to me, so. I guess we could debate that at some point. But, and thanks to Ty for reminding me, so I was able to complete the training and finish that up. I also did a training related to just being on the board of trustees for mosquito abatement.
Yeah.
And then, like Jeff said, we had the boundary line adjustment meeting with Millville representatives. And there's a lot to work out there still, and probably not a whole lot to say about it at this point. But we'd like to see some formal application or statements from everybody who would be affected by it, private owners and other rights. Just stating that they would agree to that. It sounds like it would be beneficial. Millville.
And who's gonna notify people? Is Millville?
Millville's taking, especially their side of the Spend Loves had a official application submitted for something or official notice, so
Yeah.
we're waiting to
Spend Love and a Crow.
Yeah,
I don't know if I have the name right, but there was another owner that, yeah, and they were gonna reach out.
Okay,
To the, that was the city recorder, I think was
yeah,
doing that.
yeah,
What else? Yeah, then I guess, obviously we have public hearings with Millville and Providence and the county and so some steps.
okay, good.
And then now that springtime's coming along, we'll have some just serve. Soon. I toured around with Ryan and found a place in the park that might be a good starting point, but we decided to go around together and look at some other stuff and just get a feel for that and start that up. So that's my,
Awesome. The basketball lines in cattle corral need to be painted. Like the free throw lines and the circles. There's some kids down there playing last night and they said, could we paint some lines down here?
I've measured it out for 3 points. It certainly there could be some point of lines, but it is a very limited.
Put it on the lawn, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, I am, that,
or won't be regulation.
it won't be
They
regulation.
gotta play big.
Your
Oh,
percentage goes up quite a bit.
Well, or maybe, you
It
know,
is a,
doing the half circle kind of thing in there, just so that they've got some lines so that they can follow some rules. So, anyway,
Would that be
was,
something you would want to have people with their spray can?
well, not the spray can, maybe.
Exactly.
But that might be a project for someone to do.
Maybe we can manage that. Yeah, good idea. Thank you.
Okay,
Where was that? Sorry.
cattle corral,
Okay.
it's on Second South, between First and Second East. It's just a little tiny pocket park. There's no playground equipment, there's just a little lean-to kind of thing and a barbecue. And then a basketball
Okay.
hoop.
Sounds good.
Okay. I helped with the Easter egg hunt. Carrie has always did a great job. We had lots of participation. We thought we might not because it was raining part of the time, but people came and they were happy. And I had extra eggs just in case somebody didn't get one, and I didn't really have to give those away.
Yeah, and the
we gave
rain
them away,
stopped.
but
It ended up being beautiful.
it did, and got a little bit warmer, so it was nice. Then the CMPO meeting, I'm the chair now, chamber board meetings, conservation board meetings. And then, just wanted to give everybody a heads up, next meter, who is, a corporate citizen in Providence, is going to have their big open house on Friday at 4:00. They're giving tours. They're gonna have a drone show at 8:30, I believe. And so that should be pretty spectacular. They have, they're trying to get young people in the Providence area to be, and I suppose other areas, to go into engineering. And so they're gonna have an engineering club. And that will meet there on a regular basis. And they do a lot of R&D in there, and they use 3D printing. And then they have tanks to test their products. And so there's a lot going on there. So I would encourage you to come and bring your kids, bring your neighbors, and let's support them. They've been great corporate citizens. They've sponsored our drone show for our sauerkraut celebration. So let's support them.
Brent has his hand raised.
Oh, Brent, yes,
You have to unmute.
you have
Brent.
to push the little red on your,
I believe I'm on. You didn't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to tell people that are listening, it's an awesome time to pull out your pink emergency preparedness book and go through it with your family and see where you're up to speed and where you're not up to speed. So that was what I was going to talk about. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
okay, it's no problem. Okay, I will close the council reports now and go to the approval of the minutes. It will be the minutes of March 20th, 2024. And so I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from March 20th, 2024.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Brent?
Me and unmute don't get along, but aye.
Well, if you're really quiet on your end, you can leave it unmuted.
I'll be quiet.
Okay. There, we'll close that portion and go to public comments. Do we have anyone with public comments? Scarlett, do you have any?
You have.
No public comments that I could see.
Okay, and Ty doesn't have any.
the council got a public comment email about an agenda item. Did you guys
I
get
didn't
that?
get it.
Get the.
Oh, I'll come back to that. From Peter, yeah.
Short-term rental.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can read that one when we get to short-term
We're gonna get,
rental.
sure, so
Okay.
pull it up and have it ready. Okay, I'm not having any public comment. We will close that portion of the meeting and go to appointments. This is the reappointment of Joe Chambers to the Planning Commission. City Council will review, discuss, and may take action on the reappointment of Joe Chambers to the Planning Commission. So Joe has served for 3 years. His what do you call it?
Term is up.
Term is up, and he has consented to be reappointed, and so that takes board action. So do any of you have any questions? I don't know if Joe is on
I
there.
don't see him on there.
Okay, he is not on here. He's done a great job. It's nice. He's an attorney. It's nice to have his perspective in the planning commission. And so I would entertain a motion to approve his reappointment to
I'll
the
make a
planning commission.
motion. I'll make a motion to reappoint Joe Chambers to the planning commission.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a
I'll second that.
Okay, Jeff will second that. Any comments, questions? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Do it again.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll close that section of the agenda and go to presentations. This is a presentation that will come to us from
Mike Swallow.
Mike, okay? And so, Ryan, I'll let you take that.
Yep, I'll just start off. This is, so each 4 years, we do a in-depth compensation study analysis. And every 2 years, we just refresh the analysis. So, we did this 4 years ago. So Mike is on with us. He'll present, from his end, he'll present, the study. This is one of those to make sure that we have our compensation, one, fair, across different demographics. It takes into account, various value of work rather than, whether they're the breadwinner or not the breadwinner. It doesn't take in, it clears all of that out. So he'll go through some of that and the kind of the methodology. Hopefully in the end, he'll bring up the pay scale. And the idea would be that the council would approve the pay scale, adoption at the end of this. So anyway, Mike, why don't you start? You want to share your screen? We have an ability to see that.
Okay, I've attempted to share the screen, but it's disabled on your end there.
Try it now.
The agenda has the PowerPoint in it.
It just allows him to control it and show it.
Okay, you can see the screen there.
Yep, we got it.
All right, I'll start talking, and Ryan, anywhere you want to interrupt me and offer any other additional insights, or mayor and council, if you want to interrupt with a question anywhere, please do that. So we undertook this effort. These are the typical objectives that I promote when we get into these kind of studies. We're looking at aspects of the work, job values, things that influence internal equity kinds of questions. I provide, and Ryan alluded to, an exercise that produces a site-validated methodology. We take results from that and merge that with market data, create statistical analysis that shows you in relationship to the market group. From there, it rolls out into a pay plan. And then given an updated pay plan, we get to explore implementation strategy. So we've gone through that. This first aspect, this employee engagement and perceptions element, we provided all the employees with this worth of work survey. It was a model that went out onto a Google document, but employees were just asked to rank their perceptions of importance. Which of these things should have the greatest influence on the value of their job in this top piece? Then they were asked, if they were on the management side of the table, what policies, practices, and things of that nature should have a high priority in conversation. There were half a dozen of those. Then we asked them if
Hey, Mike, we got a question already.
question,
So-
yes.
With the ranking of the worth of work perceptions, did they rank those independently, or did they rank those
Relative to each other.
relative to each other? Yeah. As far as like difficulty of work environment.
Employees acted independently on a survey exercise, and the cumulative results was provided in a summary that you may or may not have seen yet, but I think Ryan's got that in a toolbox somewhere that shows, and I'll show you that here in a second as well.
Sorry, maybe my question wasn't very clear. Sometimes they order those things as in rank of importance to them.
Yeah.
Or they're ranking them individually. Difficulty of work, they're ranking how important that is to them. They're not ranking those 4 items, against each other. Is that?
Yeah, they're
I
ranking
just wondered
these
how the data was collected.
independently, and they're perceived to have the greatest influence on the value of their job. So if I were doing this today, and I thought job knowledge should have the greatest influence, that would be my number 1 rank.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Worth of worker as part of the survey, and so they were asked to respond to the question about when they received feedback about how well they are doing or their contribution to the city. What is it that is most meaningful? Is it to be recognized for their longevity, for their efficiency and timeliness of work, effectiveness? And so those were ranked from a 1 to 3 hierarchy approach as well. The last piece to the survey was a current pay fairness perception, and if they thought they were underpaid with regard to any one of these questions. And so the value of their job to the organization, yes or no. Pay of others doing about the same kind of work, a yes or no response. The amount of work that they performed, volume of work kind of question. And then can I go anywhere else and get paid better there than I get paid here at home? And so those are all perceptual responses. And this is the summary of it. We had 17 employees respond. And the the understanding gleaned from that exercise would be, and that's the rest of this summary that Ryan has. Let me see where we're headed here. Yeah, we're not going to elaborate on that too much at this point. I want to reference
Mike, just one comment. What this does is because we ask the employees where they feel the most value, and that is, we're able to use that and get an idea of our culture and what our staff culture is valuing compared to other pieces of the puzzle. So it's kind of a judgment of our culture versus the average for the industry. And we weight that, and so we weight it so that our culture is given pieces of it. If our culture is primarily focused on responsibility rather than longevity, then that helps to modify our culture so that within our own culture, our pay scale fits the culture rather than taking somebody else's culture that is just totally a separate market and trying to place that on top of our culture. So anyway, that's why the 4 criteria has become important, and why the survey to the staff becomes important to try to understand. The last piece you'll notice is their perception of not very many say they're overpaid. And we'll find that we don't really have that. I mean, we're not the top payer in the market, but it will show, and I don't know that I have it up today, and I don't know that he'll show it, but we do show where our status has been, what the perception was 4 years ago, what the perception is now, and we kind of can watch the progress of our staff, which shows us their enjoyment of their work and their job satisfaction. Thank you. That's the word I was trying to get. So, all right, go ahead, Mike.
Just a quick question.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you have a feel?
So what you see here is a reference to the foundation that we hang our hat on when we go through these exercises. We want it to be public policy compliant. So we're sensitive to the Equal Pay Act of 1963. We are sensitive to the Federal Job Classification Act. And in that act, what is really interesting is it says that variation in rates of pay or basic compensation shall be in proportion to substantial differences in difficulty, responsibility, qualification requirements. What is interesting about that is to proportion requires quantification. So based on the results of that employee instrument, I developed and provide to the city a quantifying approach to the worth of work assignment. I don't know if you can see that very well or not.
Yeah, hold on just a sec, Mike. Go ahead.
So I was just wondering if that isn't really based on comparing to other cities, because obviously maybe we don't want to have them feel exactly like Salt Lake or wherever. Do you have an ideal metric of these would be sort of ideal for our culture and where we want the culture to shift, or if you actually want it to shift? Does that make sense?
Yes, there is some of that, and I don't know whether you heard online what the question was there, but where it is somewhat culture based, if we have a desire of where the culture is and if that shifts. So clarification, it does compare other cities and other entities as far as rate of pay based on job. And we do have some of that feeds in, you'll see, but what we're looking for is, and he's gonna go through this, each of the different ones of those categories and how they get a point. But what we do is we rank the point score based on what he's gonna show now, and the average, and then a culture twist. And that culture piece maybe affects 10 to 15% of the number. So it's not it's not a huge change in the number, but it does help us to match to our culture rather than if all of us were PhDs and we said, well, we're all educated the same, it really wouldn't matter differently.
Yeah.
And that score would make a difference, but where there is different perception of what's important to us, that's where that fits. It's a small piece that helps flow in the calculation of things. It's just one of several of the different numbers that helps calculate.
And then in comparison to say the last survey, do you see a positive shift in, I feel like I'm valued here, I feel like I'm a part of the organization?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is really about pay and whether they're paid appropriately. And absolutely, the survey from survey to survey shows that our staff is a lot more, feels a lot more like they're paid equitably. We still have room to grow in each of our area, but our progress certainly is being tracked and quantified through this. It definitely makes a good quantification of that, so,
Good.
yeah.
I didn't mean to dwell on that, so
Yeah,
thank you
no,
for the
it's fine.
pause there.
All right, go ahead, Mike. You're back to you.
Okay, so, of significance is that we go to great lengths to separate the worth of work from the worth of the worker. And so the job description are the control instruments as we assess the valuation and align our internal equity results. So if I had a job description today that called for a bachelor's degree, and as we read the document, we interpret that this is an entry-level professional, then we would assign a point value in this box. We assign separate values based on job requirements in terms of credentials, licenses, certifications, professional designations, and then also points are awarded for minimum qualifications required by the job, not how much experience the employee has, but what is written into your recruitment instruments. So knowledge is a piece of the puzzle. Then we look at responsibility, and based on our subject matter expert perceptions, we consider accountability and accuracy, consequences of error, level of controls and freedom to work in the job. Do they have supervisory responsibility? What kind of public contacts are they engaging with, internal and external customers, and budget responsibility? So that's a pretty significant factor. We look at the difficulty of work, and that's viewed in terms of judgment and decision-making that we understand from the job description, complexity and variety of work. And then we add this little extra bonus down here for stress in the workplace. Anybody got that?
Not Ryan.
Not Ryan. So if the job has face-to-face interaction with the public, we're going to give considerable stress for that as part of the job. If they wear multiple hats, we're going to give multifunction stress. If it's public safety job, we're going to give critical incident stress. So we try to really hone in on those significant aspects of the workplace and the job. We look at the work environment in terms of physical effort, working conditions, and then a bonus environment for hazard and certainty. Public safety gets a significant bonus, all the way down to having to frequently travel around the community in an automobile. Maybe that's just going to the post office and getting the mail, but you could say that's got value and there is some hazard. So there's a lot of flexibility in the tool. So here you can see all of the jobs listed here, and across the scale, the job values that resulted from the assessment and assignment. So this is listed high to low, but these determine a market-based pay rate and influence the ranges that come out of our analysis. So we go to the market and
Mike, it looks like we have a question from Brent.
okay,
Brent, go ahead.
Yes, my question is back 2 slides. when you were talking a percentage increase due to, for instance, hazardous, a percentage increase of complexity of job facing the public and whatnot, and that's a percentage of where? What number are we looking at to increment that up? I'm just curious. You know, if you add 50, go back to one more slide. Okay, so down here at the bottom, for instance, on number 3, for positions that require operation, maintenance, or service equipment, you add 50%. 50% of what number?
50% of the value awarded within the body of this matrix.
So that would be 50% plus, take one of these numbers here, and you would add 50% to that.
Correct.
Okay, so I was wondering, when you were saying you were adding a percentage, I didn't quite understand what you were pulling, or applying that 50% to. So I was curious about that. All right.
Good question. That's a significant aspect of the tool. So you'll see in these boxes here, these are the bonus columns related to the core factor. And so these are all a percentage of this key leading value. So we get into the market analysis, and we threw the net out there pretty far and wide. These are all of the contributors in our data that went into our regression analysis. You remember your stats classes in college. So we're going to produce a pay line based on the relationship of all of that data as it relates to the trend line from the lowest paid job at the lowest valued job up through the highest paid job and the highest pay range and rate. So that analysis, the survey group showed up here. The city's analysis produced this line, and it showed that in this analysis for this year's exercise, that across the board, your starting pay rates were about 25% behind that group of public entities that you have to live with or not. You know, that's another area that you have the ability to explore in a what ifing scenario. What if we just looked at these localities, or what if we looked at just those within a 50-mile radius of us? Where would our talent pool be likely to shop their talents if they were going to do it at all? You know, so if you have a captive labor market, you're going to be in pretty good shape. If your attrition, your turnover is not working you pretty hard, then those are indicators for how you might pursue an implementation plan when we get to the pay plan itself. So,
Mike, we got a question. Go ahead.
Have we tried to assess this data just comparing them to cities in the valley and just cities that are similar in size to ours? Because I would expect there to be a difference if we're comparing ourselves to Mill Creek or, you know, even Logan, which is quite a bit bigger. Although Logan was probably be closer to us just because we're economically kind of in the same region. So have we like done
Narrowed it.
different iterations of this?
So not different iterations, but does take some of the different the variety of cities and having a wide one. We throw out some of the largest ones or different ones, but keep in mind that what this is gets a point scale system it's a comparable system across the gamut. So for instance, like mine, I may not have the same requirements and difficulty of work that a city manager with more departments might have. So their number will be higher than mine. So like Public Works, they have certain things that fit theirs, but if you went to a different city, that point will be different for that city versus our Public Works director or our different positions because that's where it gets customized to us, is through the point system of what that is. So we look and say, okay, the average of all city managers is this, but because I don't have this or that, or I do this more than that, then that changes that point scale system. That's how it becomes very customized down to us, and why it isn't necessarily just, oh, what is
City size.
city size, or because it's really the value of work, not based on the size of the city. Because if I'm doing that volume of work, then the pay should be similar to that volume of work. And maybe in a Logan, maybe that's a public works director is the equivalent point scale with me rather than an administrator, or,
Okay, yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's how it customizes down to the different, and it takes out different size, city size, different pieces of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe you said, here, is this based on averages or is it a median score?
I think this one, yeah,
Well, it's like a least score regression, but that could be a median.
Statistically, it's a regression trend line based on, so we have, those metrics are all in the instrument. You can look at the means, medians, and so forth. But so if we look at, let me see if I've got one in here. The actual instrument will have a little more detail about those analytics. But in this regression notion, we look at the growth pattern from the lowest paid job to the highest paid job, and the growth pattern from the lowest valued and the bottom end of the scale to the top. So here we see this trend line, and these diamond shapes here shows where everybody in the city currently falls on this survey marketplace pay plan or pay range. So we assume going into it that because there's been such a quality management process in place, that we would find that as we did, that most everybody's current pay falls within the market range, in spite of the fact that your starting pay was so far behind. So that hasn't really had a significant negative impact on you and on the workforce. So that was a good revelation to see all of these dots. There's 2 or 3 down pretty close to the bottom and 1 below here. But those just help in the decision process here shortly at the conclusion of this effort. And this is what the pay plan looks like. And back to the question about the players in the mix, this instrument has some dynamics that I think you will quite like. But knowing who is in the mix, the strong and the weak players, and having a perception about whether you can or can't, how aggressive would you want to be in relationship to that group? What might your competitive objective be? And what will drive that kind of a decision making? So Ryan can explore and share with you, if you think that field of players is too strong, you could put a negative number right there on this box, and it would reduce the whole pay plan instantly. And you can see the influence of that competitive objective shift. If you thought that you have issues you need to resolve more aggressively, so that your competitive objective might need to be a little stronger, you could put a positive number on there, like a 3 or whatever, and that would then move all of the data, all of the starting rates up that percentage. You can also play with upcoming events. You might have COLA adjustments that you want to consider come July, for example. And if you implement this pay plan, if you anticipate some COLA adjustment, you can plug that value in right here and instantly again see the entire pay plan refresh and connect to the rest of the features in the workbook that Ryan has at his fingertips. So this pay plan, I don't know what your philosophy is, but there's a lot of things that you could do still and in addition to pay plan, such as having steps. I don't know if you believe in steps on a pay plan. Some departments are more aggressively engaged with wanting steps, like public safety. They want to know what they're going to get next year and the year after, so they have more of a entitlement mentality that surrounds their approach to pay plans. If you had a fixture that addressed learning curve and how fast job individuals acquire the competencies to do the job, if they can demonstrate those to management in a speedy fashion, maybe they can advance to the midpoint more readily, more speedily than others. So you have a variety of issues, of opportunities and ways to manage through and to navigate through the day-to-day pay plan management. So that's your pay plan. Any questions about this? Notice that every single job has its standalone market-based value. In the old days, we used to take points, convert to bands, bands to grades, and grades to dollars. So we've eliminated banding and pay grades. So you don't have the issue anymore where you have multiple jobs in the same grade and the difficulty of having challenges presented by a department or by employees to say, my job's bigger and better than that one. We shouldn't be in the same pay ranges. So here you don't have to deal with that except on a one job at a time basis. So if tomorrow something changed in that building official job, for example, and the state required another level of certification and licensing, you would then add that to the job description, and that would increase the job knowledge point value. And that would flow all the way into the pay plan, and that would instantly refresh and provide to you a new, more accurate pay range on a job by job. So Ryan, you think that's going to help you?
Yeah, let's take some questions if we have some at this point. One thing I would just say with this one is what you mentioned, where we stand as a market. Right now, we start below most of our peers. And at some point, we look to have the median of that red line. That's kind of where our hope is. So we're trying to be at the 50%, as people move along in their job. Our goal is to try to get people to that midpoint. Now, if the idea or philosophy was that we want to be the pay leader, sorry, if we want to be the pay leader, that would be different. We've currently proposed to try to be in the middle, to be that median spot. But if we look and said, are we the type of entity that we want the top 25% of staff, or be in the top 25% so that we attract the top talent? That would be a different look. The current method and the current proposals have been to keep us, to try to get us in that median spot. So that has been the current method and attempt. We started much lower than that, and we've worked to get to closer. We aren't, some of them still, because that job has changed and the market has changed. We've seen some drop below where we think the minimum of our pay range would be. So anyway, just kind of give that. Brent, you have your hand up. What question do you have?
I think what you've done here is phenomenal, because I think we've experienced employees being trained and then going to other entities. And we lose that training and that by someone snatching them up. And so I really think what you're doing here is a good way to approach this, because as you sit down and talk with the employees who might have an offer to go someplace else, you can pretty much show them how we relate to other cities and other communities. So I think this is very valuable. I do have one question though, because this has been on my mind. Usually the public doesn't challenge what we pay the employees. What the public challenges is what the elected officials get. Do you ever do anything like this for elected officials?
We did one of these 4 years ago, under Mayor Drew, on the elected, and it led to a change in pay about 4 years ago when most of the council took office. And I think that it's been a lightning rod, so we chose not to do it on this update. If that's something you'd like to do, we'd certainly go out and do that, but at this point, we chose to keep to the staff side, because that one, and less changes over time from the council side, and we already have that. And so, you know, we could certainly update it and look at it if you wanted us to, right, Mike? You do it. You did it before us 4 years ago. So
Yeah, that's true. And with your relationship with TechNet, at any day and time, you can drop into that and run a report for elected pay, even for all of these same communities that are in this particular exercise, or at any other targeted group. So you've got that strength at your fingertips.
My only comment to that, as for a reason of doing it, would be to unify the council in making tough decisions when they deal with their own pay increase or whatever they do with their own pay. Because that has been, for the last 2 years, a very tough situation for the council. And I would like to the only reason I would do that is so it would unify the council, because we have not been unified in the past.
yeah, if the council would like to, we'd like to do it. We'd happy to do it. It was kind of an ad last time, and it made a fairly significant effect. Would be happy to do it again, and we could do that either as an addition to this project, or like you said, pull up the data and kind of do that as a refresher. So either one, however the council would like to go on that. So at this point, don't keep in mind, this point is not the actual of any raise. This is an adoption of a pay range. Budget would be the time that we'll actually discuss any actual rates. So when we get to our May meeting and we do budget, that will be when the actual pay increases or other variation would take effect. So this is looking to say, okay, here's the methodology of what we've taken. Here is the kind of rate at which we're at, and adopting our method and results is kind of what this agenda would kind of cover. So anyway, other questions? No, I think you might have, you writing stuff down, so I'm guessing.
I do write stuff down.
That's good.
I was curious what the low data points were, which job was below the line.
If you wanna go back. If you wanna go back to the chart, go back, yeah, there you go. Oh, nope.
Regression line.
There you go, right there. So at this point, I'll just tell you, that's our streets foreman. Right there. That's the one that's the rest are all on it. He's the one that's farthest under it. So
And what's the one to the left of that?
this left here.
Yes.
If you want to, can you click on that and tell me that one?
This, if I
Well,
were
the next,
the workbook, the Excel file, I could click on this and we could identify that position and person easily by title anyway, but not in this clip shot like we're looking at. But unless you want me to go out and bring up the live and living instrument.
Do you feel like you have turnover in that position? A lot of turnover? I mean,
Well, the other thing that could be in that position, is it could be somebody that was just hired into that position and they're starting from that base.
okay.
I'd have to look at that specific position.
Somebody with not a lot of experience,
It could be either not a lot of experience,
starting at the bottom.
or their valuation has changed and the value of work has exceeded the market has exceeded the pace of their change. I can find that one. I do know this one. And so it would be,
I just know in the past when we've done the budget, we usually do like COLA across the board. I don't know that we've made adjustments specific to their job title.
we have as a market, as a market adjustment, we've done a little of that. It hasn't been, so prevalent that it's done at a council level, but inside of a budget, we have done,
Market adjustments.
some market adjustments, yes, and that's been discussed. And we've moved with some of those small market adjustments. We'll have, this market adjustment, will be more than what we could probably accomplish in a single year. So we'll probably move it up to between there, but realistically, he probably has enough experience to hit the red line. But that would be a sizable enough jump that we'll do it in steps, in order to work into getting people there. We have some of these other ones that are on the line that they'll have, we can move some of them closer to that line this time, but
And the top one is you.
yeah, that one's fine.
The top of the blue is you?
Yeah,
This one right here is, so, yes.
so he needs to, an adjustment.
Just say it.
That will
I
come,
said it.
that will
I
come
said it.
next, that will come in next month, and maybe I can show you my report, just as a teaser for next one, but we can pull this up in my report, we can come back to this in my report and show you who it is, and I can pull that easily. But at this point, this is where we're trying, at a 5-year mark, between 5 and 10 years. The goal, we haven't got there. When I started, we had a lot more below the blue line, and we've made significant progress with lots of different positions. But our goal at the 5, when they have the years of experience and when they've overcome their learning curve, the 5 would be the midpoint of career. So between 5 and 10 years, they should have reached that red line, and we hope to keep them there. And that would be those that are the median of their salary range, not in the top. So you'll notice that we have some that have worked for 15 to 30 years, and they are not. I mean, you have very few above the red line. So realistically, there is very few above that red line. We've been working so hard to keep them above the lowest line, and because of that, we've been focused on getting that. But the next transition will be to try to get people up to that red line. That should be our ideal. That's where half the jobs are less pay and half are more, and to have them in the median makes it so that they're probably not gonna leave for money. And they may leave for other reasons, but when we have them at the bottom of the pay and we're just covering to the blue, that's where our real risks of turnover are. We have some, we've had our wastewater operator position that we have had vacant for, Rob's gonna correct me, and he always is willing to, and always able to, I invite that. But I think it's been almost 6 months. Rob, has it been 6 months that we've had the wastewater position vacant, haven't been able to fill?
It's been a little bit over that, actually. Feels like a year or more, but yes, you're pretty close.
Keep going. So we're gonna,
Not sure.
Ryan will at some point address a least cost strategy for implementation, what that might cost you, but the way it looks just right now, without any serious deep diving, anybody whose current pay falls below the starting rate would be recommended for at least an adjustment to the minimum. And right now, that could cost you like $21,000 in a change in budget. But you've got more fine tuning exercises to come. So that's just kind of a snapshot at this moment. We then can pursue other questions, what current problem or frustration and compensation, if adequately addressed today, would give you the greatest return on your investment for the project. And so that's just kind of out there, hanging there for you to consider. But you may or may not believe in compression. Ryan and I have talked about that. Ryan, did you have any comment about that as an issue, or is that something we just kind of ignore for now?
You know, we've made progress on compression. Compression for those is that there has to be enough space between a line employee and their supervisor, so that at some point that line employee would be willing to take the supervisor job. If there isn't enough space between those, then nobody will take on a supervisor spot, because
There's not enough
it's
pay
easier,
difference. There's
not
no
enough pay
reason to.
difference. So that is what, when we talk about compression, it is a matter of if the top pay, or, you know, if you have that glass ceiling and you say, hey, here's the end, and everybody gets up to it and it starts to compress to that, you'll never have somebody that will be willing, or you shouldn't. Realistically, people won't take on more responsibility for not enough more pay. And, we don't really have, as much of a compression problem, because we have, space for people to move. And so I don't know that we've had a huge compression problem, but we have, because we've set that value of work and we've set that, people know what their range is. It's not a mystery. It's not coming in saying, oh, hey, you know, I hear so-and-so makes more than I do. And we pull it up and we see, yeah, you know, they do. But because this is the reasons why. They make more than you do because they have budget responsibility you don't, or they have this responsibility you don't. And we can take it very detailed down to them and walk them through and say, here are the things that are different between your job and their job, and that's why there is a pay difference. And that is why this is helpful. It's helpful for you guys to know what we're doing on our side for how we're operating pay wise. So anyway, any other questions before we go any farther?
You've described the supervisor subordinate one. That's a good one. If you had any issue there, I propose usually a 15% difference between the manager and the next highest paid subordinate. That should accomplish that mission. The other one that you might have, I don't know if you do, but this is peer to peer, the old timer, the senior employee, and the new employees coming in earning about what they make, and they get a little annoyed about that. But if you're a performance-based organization, you can say that quality performance management promotes compression. You have, let me get to this next one. So I did a study for the city of Las Vegas. That was their posture, that because they evaluate performance and they're religious about it, the old timers can be out paid less than a newcomer if they're getting outperformed. So that's a reality check in the workplace on some occasions. It may not be there today for you. So when the manager gets put on the bubble, there's this statement I like to refer to, and that is that success or failure as the manager rests in the ability to evaluate. That ability is the ongoing assessment of things as they were, as they are, and as they need to be, resulting in the effective allocation of the resources needed to prevent and solve problems. Problem is a frustrated goal. So that's a job description for a manager right there. Next up, almost done here, but as you consider where you are and where you're going, you have your historical picture. Ryan's already described that. Any pay progression objectives, he's articulated that nicely also. And then you've got the competitive position. I think you've got the tools in the toolbox. And after the dust settles on this effort, you will have these ongoing considerations, the economics, the revenue stream. There is always this interesting item, marginal utility, and that is the idea that for all jobs, there is that point in time when it makes no sense at all to pay another penny for the job. And so that marginal utility could kick in, and you've got recruitment, selection, and talent retention considerations. So this is, I think this might be the last screenshot, but going forward, you're going to articulate those pay progression strategies, going to continue to solidify your culture with the plan that you're working with. You're going to have a least cost strategy to look at initially and then consider unique needs on a targeted basis. And then this whole environment, this is a living instrument, this job tool for you. You won't need anybody like me anymore, I don't think. That's what I say, because this instrument will reply to and respond to your needs. And all you'd have to refresh any given year is the survey data content on one tab of the workbook. So you've got these three things now on the table. You're going to be talking about the need to pay, influenced by those things, recruitment and retention issues. You got that ability to pay based on current and projected resources. And after all of that, the willingness to pay, and that's going to be influenced by an objective to establish or maintain a desired employer posture in your labor market area. So I think that's it. Yep, that was it. Any questions or backtracking?
Questions, Janelle, Carrie?
I think this tool is really powerful, and I go back to what Brent said about elected officials. And I also think it would be useful to know, where we're at. The last few years, we haven't done, any cost of living raise for the elected officials, but just to know, to be able to justify where we're at, or to say, yeah, we're good, let's not move it up anymore.
I do think it would be interesting to do that for an elected official though, because we don't come in with qualifications. Some of us have served longer than others versus others, which, brings.
So you're saying it's impossible to do?
Experiential knowledge. Well, I mean, are we gonna adjust the pay council member by council member?
No.
I don't think that's.
Yeah, so this tool isn't as useful. I guess it would just be a
Sure.
comparison of pay, which we haven't done for 4 years, right?
Correct. That's correct. And because, which we knew when it was adopted the last time for the council, that you adopted at the median, kind of the average spot. Really, I think median one. So that was where it was adopted. And then you haven't had increases. So I can tell you that you are no more
At the median.
than the median. You have fallen below that point. You either stayed the same or below that point. And if the average city has taken any kind of increases each year, then that hasn't occurred here. So you can't have made progress beyond that. So every year you don't take it, you fall behind that. And it becomes back to that compression, right? It's the compression, it's the things that we talked about. the same thing applies on council ones. You're right, with experience, that is the cost of living bump that comes because it adds to that experience as you go. So you could do different ones on that and have it based on years of experience rather than just base pay. But the survey last one was here are, I don't know, I think it was almost 75 different cities or more, and said, here's where it was. We started at nearly the bottom at the very lowest and moved it up. And it seems like a individual or two have beaten the council up for that, but being in the middle. And really, you're not in the 75 percentile, but I think if you match the value of work, you compared, your own to the experience level, of your peers, I think you would find that your education level is definitely higher than a lot of your peers. Because a lot of these smaller cities don't have the ability to attract, the level of experience you have, or at least educational level of
Formal
experience,
education.
formal education. So I think that plays into it. We can certainly do it. If you'd like us to do it, we'd certainly go back and have that done. With a little of the pushback before, was reluctant. But if I read that wrong, we're happy to do it. We'll get her done. I've been reluctant to push that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna create drama. I
Yeah,
just wanna be able to justify our pay.
yep,
And, but if you feel like it will create drama, then that's not what I'm seeking at all.
no,
But if it will be water on the fire, cause hey, look, these are like-sized cities in Utah and this is what they're getting paid.
yeah,
I don't know. My goal would be to throw water on the fire.
right.
I don't think having the data is gonna hurt anything. I mean, we still end up with our budget hearing and respond to the public and on what they think.
Well, we have a different council now than we had the last time we had that too.
We did. I did wanna just say something to correct record. We did this 4 years ago, but we did not implement it 4 years ago.
Yeah, we did.
We made the adjustment at the next municipal election.
Oh,
For the
I'm
council
sorry.
pay.
The council one,
Council.
you're right. It
So
was-
we
So-
kept
so
our
we
pay
assessed
at
it.
the bottom
We
for 2
assessed
more
it,
years.
kept it where it was and didn't make any adjustments until the next elections.
That is correct on the elected
council.
side, you're correct. When I was talking on the staff side, we did adopt and implement the staff side, but you're right. When the council adopted theirs, it was adopted after the next election, cycle. So it was adopted and held and became effective then after the next election occurred. That is correct.
Here's
I'm
a
interested.
sample of a
Just heard,
clip
but not.
from our survey data that shows reported elected official pay.
Read my mind.
The city council on here and about alphabetically here, it just shows annual pay rates reported as of today. You could kind of go down through the list here and it doesn't give you any metrics, any analytics, averages or anything, but you could carve it up and target places with specific populations and have that kind of information in hand pretty fast.
Brian's a wizard.
We can take the data we have and the last study, and we can update the numbers from what those cities are paying now. And we have access to Mike's data. He talks about TechNet, and that is the access to the database in which this information is stored from all these cities. And you can see the list of the cities, but I will tell you, that's not encompassing every city he does. When I reached out and I've reached out a few different times to find out who does salary studies. Mike does 75 to 90% of all city salary studies. He is the guru of this field. If we're gonna get one that does it, and he may not pat himself on the back for that, but I believe if you're honest, you'll agree that you are the guru of this and do almost all the cities. Yes?
I'm getting old.
He's getting old, yes. So anyway, but he's done a long time and we have faith that this has helped and we have seen improvement in both the pay satisfaction of pay. Doing this on a regular basis has helped and we see it continue to help so that we know where we are according to our peers. And in a study like this, the nice thing is that we know proactively rather than hearing from each of our staff members saying, oh, well, I heard
Or
so-and-so.
wondering why they leave.
Yeah, or wondering why they leave, but really, you know, after they've left or when they come and say, hey, so-and-so gave me a job. I will tell you that every one of your good employees either had somebody ask them if they're interested in applying somewhere else or probably received some type of offer this year.
No, let's keep up.
I mean,
keep up.
I just let you know
You know.
that has, I'm nearly positive, especially if they've been out open with in the market, not necessarily applying, but there is actively recruiting a good staff, and we have a great staff. But one of the ways we do that is through actively making sure that we are paying at least within the range of our peers. And the question comes is, at some point, are you interested in moving? We haven't met the median yet, but moving from median to 75th percentile, if we can get that, and this comes back to the need to pay. We got to pay at least what our peer cities are paying. The ability to pay, we are a city that has fairly strong financials, so we have some fairly good ability to pay. And it comes to the council, there's the willingness to pay. That really comes, the ability financially, the city is there, budget wise, we can achieve that. The need to pay, we have some of that, at least the levels. But yours really comes down to that willingness to pay. And that is that of those three pillars, that's the one you get to really weigh in and control, is how much of we will pay within that compared to our peers. And so anyway, that's not something that really has to be decided today, but if there's other questions, any other questions on the report and where we're at?
No, I suggest that we just
Process.
use
it.
this, process the information and come up with a plan of how we're gonna implement.
Okay,
Cause there's no action for us to take tonight.
I think the action would be to accept the report. Is there, I don't know, I haven't read the agenda, but is that not correct?
We'll hear.
We'll just hear the report. It doesn't ask for any action on our part.
Okay, well,
So
at
my,
that point, then we're reporting back that this is the plan we're taking. And if you want us to take a different method, then we'd like to hear that. And as we go into budget, keep in mind where we're at and what our rates are. So as we come to budget, in next meeting will be our preliminary budget, and that's where we'll start to say, hey, if you have a difference, then that would be a good time to bring it up. You'll have 30 days to comment between then, but if you have a change in some of the core pieces, the sooner you can tell us, the better we can revise our budget so that we're ready in the June meeting to have adopted.
well, this is a great tool for us to use. And I think between now and then, we have an opportunity to look at what that means for us budget wise and what we can implement, how much of it we can implement this year. So I congratulate Mike on your work on this. Thank you for
Thank you.
presenting that, and we're gonna use it.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
been a
it.
good team effort, so I'm never off the job. If you need anything, just reach out and I can assist. So
Okay,
even
great.
if I've been to the bank with your money, I don't say I'm done with you. So
Okay,
good
thank you
night.
very much. Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's close that presentation, and go on to agreements. We need to talk about the skate park shade structure. We found that this is over and above what we've allocated. And so, Ryan, you wanna give us a quick report on this?
Yes, so just as an update, we have basically a $600,000 contract with Hunger to build a skate park. Part of that, we've gotten grants for from RAPS, and we've got some from the outdoor recreation grant. And so we've got some of that, and we're in about 250 to 300,000, so we're splitting about half of the cost at this point. This shade structure could cost between 65, I think, was on this proposal, to about 75. I think if you want to approve it, realistically approving an amount up to $75,000 to build that shade structure, it is probably gives us enough room to be able to make sure that if there's any contingency up and above. The proposal just was the building, not the engineering, so there's some in addition. So I think it's 75,000 is what it would cost you for that. Just a couple of pictures. Let me see if I can share my screen so that those online can see this. Where is that? Page three. Screen. All right, so this is kind of one of the drawings of it. I'm gonna go through a few of the drawings just to kind of show you what some of the pieces are. This is this kind of visual, but we're talking about adding the shade structure over top. It is a function of the park itself. So you'll see how it fits to the ball diamond here. You'll see that it's open underneath.
Are we gonna eliminate the fence there?
No,
So the fence will stay up?
correct.
People will have to come around
Yes,
to get to it.
correct. We'll have an opening in the fence, but the fence will stay
An opening to the road.
opening from here.
From the skate park
From
to
the
the
skate
road,
park
to the
to
sidewalk.
the sidewalk, on the
Okay.
road, yes. But majority of the fence will stay, yes.
Okay.
So, anyway, another one.
So these are adaptations since the geotech water.
Yes, this is what, so here, you
This
can
is a
see
final
underneath,
design.
this is what we believe to be constructed. Well, and if you choose not to, we'll probably have plates that it'll be able to be built on later. Mine is you know, when we're building, it's gonna be cheaper now than ever be, in any other time. If we're gonna do it, if we don't do it now, the chance that it really gets done is significantly reduced, because we'll have other priorities and projects as we move along. And it's hard for us to come back in a phase, and then when you do, you know, what you revise, and then it opens up a whole lot of other things. The likelihood, go ahead.
That's designed for watershed to keep that accessible during the winter.
Well,
That's the goal.
yes, the goal is to extend the ability to use the skate park, not just the winter, But
The heat of the day.
but
in the
heat of the
summer.
days, rain events, it opens up really the ability to be in there in a whole lot more stretch. When the snow hasn't quite melted off. So at that point, even that spring and fall, it extends that spring and fall usage. It really adds it adds one, very uniqueness to the valley. I don't know that we have anywhere else that has a shade one, or a structure over it. It extends its ability to use it during various, weather and different events. So anyway, it significantly improves the amount of time that it could be used. So, but it still comes with cost. So, but anyway, I thought that was a pretty good picture, to show you kind of what the envision of the shade structure would be. It's not necessarily just something to sit under. It is part of the skate park. It is covering a piece of the skating facility. So
And without that, everything underneath still exists.
everything, yep, correct. Without that, without this item, everything underneath still exists. That is within our base cost that we've contracted with under. What is the add is the structure on top. Brent, you have a question?
Yes, yes, I do. I had a couple of questions. Is it okay to talk now?
Yes.
All right, I'm a little bit concerned. Okay, so is the drainage to the west, so it doesn't drain towards the rest of the skate park?
It drains, yes, it'll drain to the west, away from the park.
No, that's, isn't the, okay, it's a hay shed type structure, and it appears to the drawing that the drop part of the front and is to the west, and that the drainage is to the skate park. That I mean, we ought to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, the skate park will be to the east.
Right.
And yeah, and so the structure is as far west, and it should flow to the west. And there is a, you not necessarily see it well in this picture. But there is over here in the northwest corner, that is a detention basin.
Okay, so in looking at that picture, to the right of the entrance has a drop part. And that, from the other pictures we have, that appears that the slope is sloping to the park. I guess, and I'm not want to belabor that issue. If you're going to build that, the drainage ought to be the opposite direction, away from the skate park or the rest of the cement area.
Right, that's correct. This is drawing as far as visual, but you're correct. I mean, that we want it to drain away from the park. There will be drainage so that the park, in the center will drain away. In this bowl here, it will have it'll have a drain in it to drain it out. Obviously, without it draining, it becomes a very useless park. So they have spent a lot of time and effort to make sure that it drains away from the park. Yeah, no, I agree with you, but they have spent some, it may not show it exactly here or reading it here, but that is part of the process, is to make sure it drains away so they can continue to use it. Absolutely.
Okay,
Good.
so now go back to your other drawing that you had before. Yes, well, that one. So what concerns me here is the location between rails and tables and so forth and the posts. Now, I know there's a lot of skateboarders that are good, but there's some that go off. What about the concern of injury by hitting a post?
It's engineered for safety, I guess. Is what he does.
Yeah, at that point, it's engineered. I think maybe what you think you're seeing, and it's very hard to see on here, but this is green, so this is kind of, I don't know, I think that the hole is outside of the cement a little bit. I think there might be rock or something there, but this gray line, if you can see it, is I understand the drawing, there is a little bit of that hole that is outside of the cement.
I agree with you that it is outside of that. It's just, well, I've seen skateboarders kind of fly haphazardly into the air. I just worry about covering it if we're going to create an issue. If the building is not sufficiently far outside, that if a person launched and crashed, that there wouldn't be a pole in relationship to where that could happen. In other words, enough landing area that if he went up over and sailed 4 or 5 feet, that they wouldn't have a possibility of hitting a post. That's my concern about this, is those posts could be dangerous.
Is it possible to pad them like we do the lights on the ball field? I mean, if that's what they.
If something happens and we need to do something to pad them, that there is possible options. At this point, I mean, these are. We've
These
hired
are artist renderings.
Yeah, we've
They're not
hired some of
engineering
the best builders of skate parks. I'm confident that they're thinking of the safety and the pieces. They don't want anybody hurt on their park. I mean, skating is somewhat inherently has a danger inherent to it.
Trees when you're downhill skiing.
Yeah, trees and downhill skiing, yes. So,
Someday trees.
but that's part of the fun, you know, running into something's part of the fun. As I'm told.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think the real skaters are gonna figure out a way to get up on top of the structure and hang out up on top. So
That
what do
is
you want to
part
do
of,
about that one?
well, at least they won't be on top of the other things,
At Tom Bear Park.
well, either Von Bear Park or
I mean, at Zollander.
or Zollander Park. I mean, there's plenty of things that people find their way up. We try to help them so that they don't. But
This skate park is strategically placed along one of our most busy roads so that it's visible to people and people will patrol it in their own special ways.
and we expect that at some point, as we're building security and cameras to our different parks and other areas, there's going to be cameras here eventually some point. So.
Well, and tonight, what we're being asked to do is conceptually saying, do we want to spend this additional money to put a shade structure over, which is over and above what we initially put in the budget? So what Ryan is asking, can we move ahead with this and get engineering drawings where we can really truly examine them?
We have engineered drawings and they were part of
But
the
this is an
agenda.
artist.
This is artist rendering. I'm showing artist rendering because the engineered drawings were.
Are complicated.
Yes, but they were part of the agenda.
Right.
So, but I thought this would be a better preview, showing.
Right.
So, but yet, so at this point, they'd like to come next week, maybe exaggeration, but they'd like to come next week and move forward to start construction. And they want to know whether you have shade structure in or out, so that they can have the building permit or not.
Okay.
Lights underneath this?
If we can, but that's a different cost one, that might be part of the contingency. It'd be nice, but at this point, we'll see where the cost is. And if we can fit it within a reasonable cost and make it work, it'd be nice. We have power close by, would like to. As long as it's not overly expensive, we'd like to. And maybe within that 75, if you approve that, then hopefully we can fit some lights in with that, because it would be nice.
At least a conduit put underground coming to the facility while we're doing this. If we're thinking of lights in the future or cameras, I'd like to see that happen. Now, cameras can do it without power, but lighting, if you're going to do it. Now, as a councilman, I would say this. I want to go on record as noting I have a concern about safety. In this facility, I'm not opposed to the covering of it, but I do have a concern about safety. If somebody hits a head or breaks a neck or something like that by hitting a post, that is a concern of mine. Now, I don't mind moving forward with the concept. I like as long as it drains correctly and doesn't drain towards the skate park and is a safety issue, I'm okay with moving ahead with it. But those are the concerns that I carry.
Okay, great. We'll get that in the minutes. Ty will make sure that's in. Before us today is, do we want to spend the extra money on the shade structure now? Or not? So I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the skate park shade structure with a budget up to $75,000. And just as far as my comments, I just think this will extend the use of the park. A seasonal, for extreme weather, which we live in Cache Valley so much that, we're already so far into this park. Let's make it so we can use it 50% more of the time.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second that, but I don't have a discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So as we've gone through this design process and grant process with our community partners and businesses, I know this is very important to them to try and extend the life and have this covering. But part of our process too is trying to get community funding partners. I know that Carrie, worked a lot on that, and she talked to people that said they were willing to donate, but there wasn't like a concrete enough design or plan yet to really know what the target donation we would need is. Is that still something that if we approve this budget addition, that if we did have donors come in and say, oh, I can put $50,000 into this project, or I could put, $20,000 into this project, that we would use that instead of our fund?
So the motion says up to. I would think that we've got some flexibility in there to cut back and not spend the whole amount if we can get people.
But if we approve it and say we say go for it for 75 and no one donates, then we're on hook, correct?
Yes, right.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's always my concern, is spending, I guess, a lot of money that pulls from everyone in the community for a few people to use. And I don't know what the history is as far as if there were any studies of how many people are actually going to use that.
Well, we had 300.
We had a whole bunch of people
That
saying that
signed.
they wanted to add it to our plan,
Right,
and our parks and trails.
and that was some years ago, I guess.
It was 2 years ago. Yeah, it takes that long at least. They're lucky that it was this fast.
So, if I'm 17 or 18 and I sign what I want a skate park because I skate, but then I grow up and go to
I'm
school
21 now.
and I'm gone from the community potentially. I guess there's always kids coming up after.
I hear what you're saying. I love that there's an alternative for them to screens, an alternative for teenagers that's practically free compared to other sports options. That is close to a school. And these middle school kids are all hanging out at Macy's. But to give them something active that they can do, I think that I think there will be a lot more skaters when we have a skate park. Because all they need is a skateboard, and every other sport is so expensive. as far as
they can
time
get to
and
this
money.
easily, too.
The access is easy. And we're already putting the money, we're putting so much into it that I'm like, let's just make it right. Or make it the best we can.
Okay, any further
But I
discussion? Okay, call for a vote. We've got a motion to accept this. And a second. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Is that an aye? It
Aye.
was a crow.
I
Okay,
don't, I,
any opposed? Motion carries.
still frozen people in this room.
I would love it to have commitments in advance for donations and see.
Well, we've tried that and we've done some things, but now we have a really
Our deadline.
hard, well, and we have a really hard wired plan that we can now say, if you'd like to sponsor and put your name on the shade up here, it's gonna be X amount of dollars. So we need to get busy and get that.
So who would spearhead that?
Tony
Council
Cox,
members,
State Park.
council members, or the
Well, we have a
community
committee.
board?
The community board, I think we ought to put them on it.
I think we should too,
And then the rest of us can,
because I know
Pipe in when we
there
need to.
were businesses that were willing to
right,
contribute and donate to that. Whether that was like, I don't know what the names are, but it might be like
we have several $1,000s
local
now,
companies, you
Don't
know?
have actually.
but we haven't given anybody, if you put your name on this piece, this is how much you'll need to donate. And I think there are some corporate customers out there that would.
Sure.
We just need to ask and give them the specific.
In the right way. When
Right.
we were asking initially, it was more abstract.
It was
It was too abstract. They're like, so how much do you need for what? And we were like, well, we're hoping to raise $600,000,
Yeah,
which I made a lot of phone calls, and people.
Right.
it just
willing
wasn't
to be
specific
generous,
enough.
but it was,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next item, number 5.
Just for Ty, I mean, he actually needs to vote.
He needs
to
a vote for
record.
me too, or here.
Okay, are you voting aye or nay?
I mean, it passes anyway, right?
Mhm.
I'm gonna say nay, just because I like to see the commitment up front.
Okay. I didn't realize you hadn't spoken a word.
Yeah, no, they
Yeah,
were
no,
both like.
I was stuck in,
The decision, right?
Yeah.
Thinking.
Yeah.
Which is the worst when you're the tiebreaker.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
So
then I
let's-
really sit on it.
let's talk about the justice court, what we've got going on here. So we'll have a quick report on that.
Yes, we
Please.
can have a quick report on that, right, Ty? Right now, we have hired, as an interim, Judge Lors. At this point, it is being done, virtually. It's actually going fairly well. I think with Judge Lors, it's going okay, right?
It's been a good smooth transition. Virtually is definitely beneficial, especially with this schedule, the judge for 3 or 4 different courts.
So he's doing it virtually,
Yeah, yeah. It's good.
he's not showing up there.
Virtually, yeah.
Okay.
So it's gone completely virtual, which we're accustomed to with COVID. We did that for 2 years, so. With anything new, we've got the setup for it with WebEx. With our notices, our new website, we can now link it, so it's.
Do they come into the city building and then they're on virtual?
I'll have a laptop at the city building where they can look at my phone. Where again, it's more beneficial because they can step outside from work, jump on during the 15-minute break and get called and open that process. So again, we're just kind of Judge Lord is the interim judge. So he's just in it until we can decide what we're gonna do. I think Ryan.
So a few options with what we can do. We've kind of waited on this one. We filled the spot, and we had some discussion when we did that. We've kind of waited. Right now, we have between, Hiram and Wellsville, Wellsville uses Judge Lors. Hiram has a different one. but their support staff is fairly packed on their support side. It's not the judge that couldn't take it on. It's the support staff, the court clerk, some of that. And they're willing to consider, but unless pressed, at this point, they're not anxious for us to join them. But we can continue to pursue that option, but at this point, they haven't been really anxious, and so we haven't really gotten any kind of official proposal or anything back. We thought that they'd maybe jump on the chance of having that, and that hasn't been the case. So we have that. We can continue with the interim right now and kind of see how things go. With the interim, we've tried it for a few months now. It doesn't have a need to stop where we're at. Doesn't have to have a immediate action right now, but where we'd waited, we kind of wanted to give you an update and ability for you to kind of weigh in there. Or, you know, at this point, if the council decides, that they want to terminate the justice court and move away from it, that's something over the next, 6-8 months that we could work on and find a way to be able to do that. And we would pare down cases and kind of work towards that end. So if we want to eliminate, this is a good opportunity for us. It's in the next month or two or whatever. It doesn't have to be tonight, but it can be if you want. But if you want to disconnect and terminate, then that would give us direction and say, okay, well, here's where we'll work towards. It has to be done by the state legislature, so it wouldn't be able to be done until they convened their legislative session. But we were so close to it last time, it just didn't work for us to try to find somebody to be ready to take up that bill. So anyway, that's kind of why we waited, and so we could kind of figure out where this took us. Terminating does create, as we learned from Smithfield, they were in the loss on it and terminated it, thinking that would save them a significant amount. And they found similar loss. And I don't have the exact numbers from them and could work that and find that. But at that point they found, because the district court and it required their prosecuting attorney to be in court a lot more. Right now, our prosecuting attorney can hop on to a case and be off, and he can be wherever he's at. Just hop on virtually and take the case and be done. He doesn't have to come to the office. He doesn't have to, I mean, honestly, in this method is probably our cheapest methods, being virtually is probably our cheapest of options. So it's working, and we're seeing how that cost compares, but we don't have enough time that we really have a good comparison. But that's where we're kind of at is there's consequences to any of the options, and we wanted to bring it respectfully, wanted to bring it to you so you could have some discussion, and thought this might be a good opportunity to maybe discuss what the future justice court is. Do you see it as a financial drain? Do you see it as a value to the public? What kind of cases mostly do you see? You see small claims court?
50-50, we get, half of it's criminal and then half small claims.
And when but tickets, citations, some of those are the citations criminal
Yeah.
side. We don't have hardcore
Yeah.
criminal. We're not seeing hardcore criminal.
Yeah,
cases.
no, I mean,
So, but the criminal cases are ones that the prosecuting attorney attends,
Yes.
so our
tickets and
prosecutor,
different things like that.
yeah, so Kelly Smith, he shows up for what's called pretrial conferences, and we only have those once a month, because we only have like 10 or 12 cases a month, so we get them for an hour and a half, so. Everything else, I'd say 78% is people just getting a speeding ticket, going online to our website, paying it and being done with it. Or calling and seeing what their options are and seeing if they want to do a plea deal. They can do by themselves if they want. public defender, the elementary involved.
I mean, I think online sounds like a sweet spot. I was actually trying to look up and see. I know that Judge Flynn resigned because he was gonna run for public office. I do not know how that has turned out.
The one that,
Oh, he won
Yeah,
that, so he's advancing in the election. Okay.
yeah, he came out with the most,
So I think online is probably the best solution too. I had been in favor of terminating it, but I wasn't aware that Smithfield was still, finding it to be a
More expensive.
expensive thing to terminate it. So with that information, I have a little bit of court experience, and my personal experience has been that online is super slick. But this is an interim solution, so is it a solution that we can make permanent?
yeah, we could go to make that permanent, we could go through the judge hiring process and get a judge that would do it for us.
And that would do it
permanently.
virtually?
So how much longer is Judge Lord's inclined to be our substitute judge?
So we haven't talked about that. I don't think he has any objections.
He's not feeling overburdened,
No, not at all.
anxious to get this.
He's happy to do it.
Yeah,
So he might be willing to do it long-term.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he has to go through the process.
Right, of course.
He's,
But he might apply.
yeah, he's covering, I mean, it's a pretty sweet gig for a judge. Like, they get paid based on what requirements they have and are having their time to pay them. And whether they work 15 minutes a week or an hour a week, they still get that payment. So it's a pretty nice gig. Like I said, he's also covering Wellsville, Hyde Park, North Logan, I think Richmond terminated. I don't know what to do. So I don't know if there's a restriction on how many courts he can cover, but again, he's in court 20, 30 minutes a week on average, and once a month in the court, maybe an hour and a half when we have Kevin. Well, I don't think it's a big strain on him, a big issue at all. So I think it's a rush. I think the whole process of hire, I think takes a couple months. So I think he knows that, and it's he didn't give him time restriction saying when he has to bow out.
So if we were to say tonight, take a vote and say, we want to make this permanent, then we could just get this process going.
Which would probably be ideal, so we don't have to talk about it more.
Yeah, if that's the way you wanna go, if that's the
I
direction you
mean,
wanna go,
Unless you want to talk about it more.
then we'll work towards it. We can work towards that if that's if that's the direction you want us to go, we'll work towards that direction. If we run into a problem, we'll come back and tell you our problem and. we can-
Okay.
So,
All right, so I'll accept it on the motion.
yeah, Brent has his hand raised though first.
Oh, okay. Brent?
Yeah, I was originally, like Carrie, I was kind of thinking that we ought to terminate it, let it move out of our community, not have the burden. That has been enlightening what you said about Smithfield. But I think it's a convenience. I think it's a convenience for our citizens, even though it's because of a negative action. But to be able to access the court, access our prosecuting attorney on a readily basis, I really think myself, we really ought to keep the Justice Court and move forward with it. I'm in favor of doing that particular thing.
Okay, do you want to give us a motion?
Yes, I'll give you a motion. I'd like to make a motion that Providence City Justice Court continue and that we take the actions necessary to make it function for the community.
Online,
Online's fine. However, the
Should we-
council feels best.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll second that we have it online. court.
Clarify, when you say continue, you mean go through the process of hiring the judge? But that's,
I think so. I think
Yes.
that's,
We need to keep
Yes.
it as an ongoing service, is what you're. Okay, so. We have a motion. Do we have a motion?
yeah,
Okay,
and a second.
and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? I think I heard all ayes.
Yeah.
Okay, motion carries. Let's go on to the next. The next one is short-term rental codes. We'll review, study, and discuss the code amendments. This is just a study item. We're not taking a vote on it tonight. And we've got a letter from the public.
The home rooms.
Peter.
So who
You
has
didn't
that
get
letter?
it? Oh,
And I responded to it and I got a response, so I don't know if you want to read all of that or.
I responded also.
You did too.
yeah, well, and he didn't ask for it to be read in. But I think we can just say that,
We don't normally read it in unless they send it to our,
yeah,
Public.
to our
Yeah.
public one.
so. I think he just wanted the council members to know that he was not in favor of having long-term rentals or short-term rentals.
Okay,
I did respond to him to clarify his position, because he thought we were authorizing short-term rentals. But we're really just talking about further regulating them. I mean, and I know as I read through the code, which I feel like is beneficial, right? To have pretty clear rules and conditional use. I know some of this is in response to legislation. I wasn't clear exactly what part of it was, but I guess maybe Scarlett would tell us.
Yeah. I think we could have Scarlett walk through it, but, the public comment, I think that's what you sent to me was his comment.
Right.
I would say that short-term rentals and home businesses, one, it's allowed, like you said, it is further regulating and how we want to regulate that. That would be my question back is forwarding back the information as the state allows, the use, then what do we do? And this is about how we manage that, that issue and regulate it as best as possible. So, Scarlett, are you ready to kind of give an overview when we're ready? There's what you'd like.
I think you summarized it really well, Ryan. It really is. We already allow short-term rentals. I didn't see that email that you did, so I'm not sure what it sounds like they maybe don't think that we allow them or they don't want us to, but we already do. And honestly, I don't think we can stop them if we want to, because the state the state legislature thinks there's value in having short-term short-term rentals. So this ordinance is very similar to Logan City's. On certain things, look at our neighboring cities, because if we can be as close to them, then it just makes it easier for people involved. And this ordinance is very clear. We passed it a year ago, Ryan, when we passed the transient room tax.
Right, we passed the transient room tax to add, because we were already allowing, it was already happening.
Yeah.
Capturing some of that revenue so that we can put it into enforcement and other things. It's a small revenue, but we are collecting a small amount, but this would help in adding the regulations, so.
Yeah, that's really all this does is add the regulations. And so I guess my thought is I was just wondering if there were any of these regulations that you'd like to see changed. Either you feel like they're too restrictive, not restrictive enough. What questions do you have or proposed changes do you have?
Some of them I would just highlight for you. I think adding parking, we get short-term rentals, and because it is no longer by the house, but by maybe the room, and some of that, the parking goes up, the requirements, because when you're a traditional house, you don't use every room, or you have people that there isn't a car for every room. But a lot of times in your short-term rentals, it attracts more. So that is one of the things you see in there, that Scarlett's done a good job highlighting. I think some of the rest is noise in making sure that the impact, and I think Scarlett's done a good job of kind of summarizing that if it has a noise impact, here's what we're gonna do. And it also lays out, if you're in violation, here are the steps we're gonna take. And maybe that's a little bit more detailed than we want. Sometimes we want more flexibility. That was fairly detailed in the response. But it helps people understand what we're going to do to help them to become compliant. So at that point, I mean, it's that balance, how detailed you want and how much flexibility you want. And so that might be one that you say, hey, you know what, do we want this kind of detail so that they know what's gonna happen? Or do we say, hey, you know what, when it's a violation, it's a violation, we're gonna cite, because oftentimes we get the violations when there is a problem, and having that stepped in can be good. But just trying to give you ideas of different pieces of the ordinance, and maybe just to prime the pump of the discussion. So anyway, whatever you'd like to do and change, like I said, study items. Yep.
One on line 66, where it says nothing in this chapter should be construed to prohibit C10-85.4. I don't think that's a reference to our code.
No,
Is
I should
that-
have, thanks, Janelle. I should have put UCA. You're right. That is, Utah code.
Okay.
So thank
Um,
you.
So line 66, I thought was that. I wanted to ask about the enforcement of conditional use permits. Because I thought we discussed in the past that we were not allowed to enforce the conditional use based on advertised units on websites. Was that something that's prohibited?
That's correct.
So how do we enforce a conditional use? If
Like-
we know somebody's doing it, but they have not gotten a conditional use permit, what steps do we take at that point?
You contact the staff and we'll walk through our process to notify them. But yeah, we can't go online, and search for who has,
Listed
listed.
Vrbo's or Airbnb?
Yes, we can't use that, to punish. Apparently the lobby for those groups was significant enough that it prohibited us from using that as enforcement. Somebody else can go online and submit complaints to us, but as staff, we can't actively go out, look at those sites and use that for the enforcement mechanism. Somebody else could do that and report.
So is that entrapment or something?
I don't know, because we have the legislature and an idea of promoting tourism and promoting Airbnbs and some of that. Because of that promotion that the state likes to promote, they prohibited us from using those sites to enforce with. So why? That's a legislative question. I don't know.
Providence isn't this, but some states of like or cities have just outright banned, like New York, and I was reading they lost like $1 billion in tax revenue. And that's causing unforeseen problems, or maybe they thought they'd deal with it somehow differently. I don't know, but my question is on the line 83 primary residence. My understanding is several states or cities, again, there was Las Vegas and Austin, I think, had people sue over that, and a judge struck that down and said, you can't require. I don't know if that would apply here, but might open up to lawsuits potentially.
I'll have to look at our state code, but I actually think that's one of the things in the state code we can do is require an occupancy. But I'll check on that to make sure that didn't change. One of the other things, and we kind of got some complaints about this, and it didn't work out really well. This makes it really clear that you can't have a short-term rental in a camp trailer, recreational vehicle, tents, yurts. We had someone doing that. And the health department, that didn't meet health department rules. And so putting that in the ordinance right up front just kind of helps people to not even go down that road in the first place.
That one's not on Airbnb anymore, but it still is active.
Which one?
The tent.
Yeah, yeah,
Glamping.
yeah.
Yeah,
But this one, the nice thing with this one is this rule would say you can't purchase a house today and use it as a short-term rental tomorrow. You gotta live in it a year. So we're trying to make sure that it's not an investment, short-term rental investment property. If you want to have it, we want you I mean, it's allowed, but if I read this correctly, this is the way I read it is we don't want people to come and just buy up properties in order to turn them to short-term rental properties immediately. We want them to come live in it. If they're gone and they go winter somewhere else and they want a short-term rental it out, they've got to live in it a year. It has a residency period of time, but once they have, then, I mean, then you're right, then it wouldn't have to fit that. But that's what this is attempting to do, in my opinion, is trying to get them so that they're not buying it just to short-term rental it.
and I think some people make short-term rentals a boogeyman, and it's this big bad thing. Full disclosure, I own and operate some in Utah and out of state. So I'm the bad guy in the
Well, I
discussion
don't
about.
think they're generally that bad, like most
they're
renters are quiet and nice and.
And that's my experience, and in many ways, it's sort of a self-regulating business, because if your yard looks like garbage and a guest shows up and it's
They
junk,
rate it,
then 3-star review or whatever,
yeah.
and pretty soon that and nobody wants to book it, and it goes out of business anyway, and then it's gone from your community.
Well, if no
because
one is living
it's-
there and it's being used as an Airbnb, at least there are people coming to stay there who are leaving their money in the community.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if it's empty, nobody's leaving any money anywhere.
Well, I mean, we still get property tax from it, I believe.
Yes, you do, but you're gonna get that anyway.
Right.
But that's additional money that comes to the batteries.
Yeah, I can't operate the camera and the computer. I can't charge them. I can't use
This
one and
meeting
charge,
is
so
gonna have
meeting
to-
really needs to close up because
Okay,
when that
let's
battery
do it.
dies,
Okay,
That-
let's,
Meeting's
that
over.
camera dies too.
let's
So I
continue
did have the
to,
question
Brett
about
had a
primary
question.
residence as well, from a resident, because they were not clear what that meant, but I think it has to be their primary residence based on taxes, right? So if they spend 6 months of the year in Arizona, that would require that they spend, their 51% in that home by putting this in as a primary residence. I personally don't think we need that section, but
And I don't
So
want
you want to strike the primary residence section?
I would be okay with that, just because I feel like homes, I mean, I understand what you're saying, like, and immediately turning it over into a rental property, but I wouldn't, for me personally, I wouldn't ever use a short-term rental that was not completely vacated. I don't want a partially occupied.
So I
You
think
don't wanna
this,
stay
the way
in
I understand this is that they have to have occupied it, but they could have vacated it after they occupied it. So for places like Moab or Park City where short-term rental prices are driving up the market price, this is a safety precaution from people just buying up short-term rentals and never living. But I too agree that for Providence, it's probably not driving up the market price and isn't necessary.
there's a.
But like for Moab, Park City.
Brent has his hand up too. Brent, did you want to say something while we got you?
we're running out of
crossword?
battery, so it needs to be quick.
I just enjoyed listening to the conversation because my concern has been about the primary residence. Over the spring break, we rented an Airbnb in Carmel, California. And what it was is a daughter was renting out her mother's house who had passed away. And rather than selling it, she was using it as an Airbnb for whatever reason. And so she was not using it as her primary residence. Now I didn't think about the condition where somebody might come in and buy up a home and use it for an Airbnb. One thing that there was is she was very attentive to the renters and making sure there was, but I can see the problem if you turn it over to a management group versus the family taking care of it. So there's some concerns I see that might be of value to a family or someone who has a home, like you mentioned in Arizona, you go to, and in the wintertime, you go down to Arizona, in the summer, so the winter you rent it out to somebody. I can see the value of that. But I really don't know how to identify it as the wording so that we don't get a rash of people just buying up houses and start renting them out. And I'm not sure that would, if you're in Park City, I can see that maybe.
I don't think that's a concern in Providence because it's not a resort town. And
Actually,
so
Terry, every call I have had has been from an investor wanting to buy and not live there. I haven't had any, I've had very few people that want to turn their house into a short-term rental while they're living in it. Most of the calls have been from investors.
Is there a way that we can reword the residential part of it to maybe allow some connection to a family if they wanted to rent their home over a period of time? And is it a possibility to take the investor out of it? Is that not as the only way to do it is make it a primary residence? Is that the only option we have to be able to control that? That's my question. I really see some opportunities for some families that have, a home here and want to be gone and rent it out short term, but I also see the problem of investors. So I don't know if there's any other wording that could come together that might change that. That would be my area of concern.
I can certainly explore that for you since this is just a study item. I can contact some other communities and our city attorney and see if they've got suggestions. So we can make a change.
That would be great if you wouldn't mind. I don't want to put you to a lot of extra work. I'm just wondering if there's something we can do to make it work a little better for our citizens and not have a.
See. Sorry. No, but the microphone isn't.
If you're a family and you move, aren't an investor.
Exactly.
I don't only have 20 in Providence, and 4 or 5 of them's already full Rock Church. So now you're talking. Some of them are already.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, but you guys are all starting to cut out. Let's continue studying this and wrap the meeting up and have fun in St. George.
Yeah, I think that's what we got to do. I apologize, and Rob and Scarlett are excellent and got in staff presentations. But the problem is the computer and the owl, which is the speaker and camera, are on the same USB-C port. So I can either have my computer charged or I can have a camera and speaker for the rest of you. So we've got a balance act. So we only got one port for 2 things. So that's my problem. So my computer is just about to die.
Let's do this. If there's something really important that the staff would like to report to us, if we can put it off until next month, that is great. Time. Okay, Scarlett?
I'm fine to put mine off for a while.
Okay, Rob?
I'm fine as well.
Okay. Ryan?
I will just report that we have 2 garbage trucks. We are making progress and we're gonna make this work, hell or high water. So, and that has been great from Rob and everybody else's standpoint, but that's what I'd have, is that we're making that progress. So
Okay.
Thank you, guys. That's great.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
By David. All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Hi. Have a great
Okay.
time.
Aye, and good night.
Motion carries. Good night. Thank you.